Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. I am your host, Nina Joshi. A couple of quick announcements before we bring on our guest for today. We have our February symposium coming up, really all around heart health. So make sure that you register for that event. All of the information will be in the chat. And we also have our Hit Labs Innovators Summit in person in New York City coming May. And tickets are also available in the chat or using the QR code that you see on your screen. And with that, would like to formally introduce today's speaker, Loretta Beine, who is the Senior Industry Director for Strategic Business Development at Empire State Development. As you know, we love questions here at Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. So if you have any for Loretta, please use the Q&A feature or the chat, and I will make sure that we get to it. With that, thank you so much for being here, Loretta.
Oh, thank you for inviting Empire State Development to join you. There's been a history of rich, speakers before. So I hope I can bring your listeners and, some information that adds value.
Well, you have no doubt. And I'm so excited to learn a little bit more, not only about Empire State Development, but also about you and really your career journey. And maybe, Loretta, that could just be a great place for us to start. Would love if you could just tell us a little bit more about your background, your career history, kind of what has led you to where you are right now.
Yeah, interesting enough, I used to work in television, and that became a little much. You always think that's a glamorous life, but what it really translates into is shift work. So now I work in an office for the state of New York, and I work and have off on holidays and weekends.
Nice.
And I work normal hours. But it's funny that you asked that, because this weekend was a little different for me. In New York State, Empire State Development participated in the conference that Bio had in New York City, CEO and Investors Conference that they had in New York City. And it was a 2-day event. But before that, on Sunday, New York Bio put together sort of an event to welcome everyone. So people from out of the state, out of the country came, and it was a social event. It was a chance to say hello to everyone and then meet new people from different areas. What the program does is they get investors in, venture capitalists, bankers, and industry, and they talk about what's happening in the world of life sciences. So yeah, it was a great sort of way to start this week. I feel really blessed that we got to get together and that New York was able to host a big event like that for, to get attention of the world.
That is incredible. That sounds like such an inspiring opportunity just to be with the community.
Yeah, we got to talk about a lot of really different things. There was a panel on one of the sessions. The panel included 2 New York State businesses, actually 3 New York State businesses, 2 in Manhattan and 1 in the Long Island City. And what these businesses are doing is they're working with AI and, say, chemistry, or AI and some other area of science. We at Empire State Development provided a grant from the Life Sciences Initiative to a company called Excelsior Sciences that is run by Mike Foley at Deerfield in Midtown Manhattan. And what he's trying to do is use AI to find chemistry that could maybe bring us closer to cures in a shorter period of time. So instead of just doing everything manually, we'll use the technology that's available to advance science to help us to get to cures faster. And that's pretty much what we're all looking for, the reason why we focus ourselves in this industry.
That's very inspiring and honestly quite exciting. I'm sure you must be so inspired being at the forefront and seeing what's kind of new and exciting in this space. And Loretta, I'm so curious, and maybe for folks on the call who are not as familiar with Empire State Development, can you share a little bit more about kind of the mission or the vision of the work that you do?
Yeah, so even when I tell you that New York State, Empire State Development is New York State's economic development agency, a lot of people still don't know what that means. When you are growing up, you're not thinking, oh, I want to be an economic developer when I grow up. So what we do, it's a state agency, and it's a front-facing state agency. We're not regulatory, we're more friendly. So it's also not like going to the Department of Motor Vehicles where you wait online. It's very business-friendly environment. What we're trying to do is get in touch with companies from New York State or outside the state and attract them to, expand or relocate their businesses from whether it's out of the country or out of state to grow in New York to create jobs. So our mission overall is job creation and building wealth in the communities. And that seems to work out well. It's a very competitive environment to be in New York, especially in life sciences. People consider different regions of the US to be hotspots or hubs. And we're trying to help people to focus on why New York.
That's incredible. And I will say, I mean, just it seems like there is such a continuing, like burgeoning community and kind of tech hotspot in New York, and has been for some time. So, I mean, I guess that just shows that the work you're doing is a good one, is a good mission. Loretta, I'm also really curious to learn more when it comes to kind of the work that you're doing, whether it's job creation, kind of supporting these smaller businesses. How do you kind of identify or prioritize opportunities or companies for that kind of business investment? What does that process look like for you?
Right. So sometimes we're working with consultants who find us, and that might be a larger scale project where somebody might want to build a manufacturing plant or just bring their R&D to another location. And then we work with the company to find out, what they might be looking for. We help them identify space or potential space. And then at the back of that, we could incentivize them with grant programs, or one of our key programs is refundable tax credit. So we have an advantage over some other states and areas. A lot of states offer tax credits for technology businesses, but New York State offers a program that's 100% refundable tax credit for a company that's creating jobs and making a capital investment. So on that plane, I win a lot. But then, of course, they're looking at other attributes of the community as well as workforce, community, whether there be other like-minded businesses in the area. People don't want to establish like a pharmaceutical or R&D lab when there's nothing else around. So that's why we focus on building a hub for these businesses to feel comfortable in and confident that they'll be able to grow here.
That's incredible. And I'm really just interested to kind of see the growth, because kind of what you're describing really about the hub and the network, the community, not just physically, but also just with all the people. I'm so curious, Loretta, in what ways have you kind of seen the tech sector, and we can kind of speak specifically to New York, kind of evolve over the past few years? Because, with the COVID craziness and now like seeing more digital health companies and remote companies, how has kind of just workforce changes more broadly affected New York? Have you kind of seen any interesting changes?
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks of Silicon Valley as where all the tech jobs are, but there's a statistic, I'm not sure if I'm going to get it completely right, but at some point in New York, as a result of maybe what you're saying is the economy across the US shutting down after COVID, a lot of technology businesses established in Manhattan, in the outer boroughs of New York City. And then at one point we had more jobs than maybe San Diego, San Francisco. So that was something we were touting for a while. And yeah, over the years, as a government plan, as the job creation agency, we look at what universities are doing to create the workforce of the future. And we don't always have financing for that, but we want to get involved with what other areas of the industry, academia are doing to give us the workforce that we need. If we're telling people to come to New York and build a business, we want to be able to supply them with the community and the qualified workforce.
I 100%. And I'm so curious to kind of learn a little bit more about some of the partnerships. But I think before I open that rabbit hole and pepper you with those types of questions, I'm so curious, we've been talking a lot just about the physical hub, but really just the idea of kind of growth and specifically inclusive growth, because I know that is an area of priority. How does, your organization, Empire State Development, how do you kind of work to ensure that maybe underrepresented sectors, like so many digital health sectors, women's health, et cetera, kind of have access to the resources and opportunities as maybe other sectors? Is that something that's kind of top of mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question because first of all, you have to get people to know about what you're doing, what your programs are, and how you can be helpful. So we
Mhm.
stay connected, like I said, to academia, to other economic development organizations. We work with the counties across the state and New York City economic development to reach out to companies that are making investments. And we also want to align with what other industries are doing. So
Mm.
for example, what I do in my division at Empire State Development, I work in the strategic business division, and we're basically an attraction area. So we want to bring businesses here from out of state or out of the country. And we have several different sectors that we have people specializing in. So there's agriculture, clean tech and renewable energy, digital game development, believe it or not. Like I said, there's a lot of engineers here in the
Mhm.
city and throughout New York State. We're focused, of course, you probably hear a lot if you know anything about what business attraction is doing. There's a lot of financial services and insurance companies that we're trying to attract to New York State. Optics and photonics, material processing, semiconductors. So in my division, everyone sort of has an expertise. I focus in the life sciences and I try to build that industry for New York State across the board, not just the city. You guys are
Mhm.
focused a lot in downstate, but I think that there's a lot of benefit to, a lot of people think of New York as tall buildings in
Yeah.
Manhattan, but there's so much more. There's so many differences between, say, Long Island and Buffalo, and then the North
Mhm.
Country and Manhattan. So we have regional offices throughout the state so that the regions kind of recognize what the industry needs, whether it be infrastructure, certain type of job creation or workforce training. So those regional offices throughout the economic development areas of the state are able to focus on what industry needs there. And at my division of strategic business division focuses on the industry across the state. So that's a little different way that we try to connect with people. And of course,
Mhm.
doing things like this with you gets the word out because people need to be connected.
Yeah,
We learn if we
definitely.
learned anything over the years of, isolation is not a good thing when people are working from home. Just to have the ability to jump on a webinar like this and to hear something new, to grow, to maybe enhance your career, or to maybe do something, get some information for a member of your family.
Totally.
Yeah, so all of these ways that we try to reach out and connect to community, including working alongside HitLab, makes a big difference.
That's incredible. And I'm so curious, Loretta, with the companies that we are working with specifically in the life science industries, are you, when it comes to really, the companies that are leveraging you all to scale and expand, are these companies, do they tend to be later stage companies? Do you see a lot of like early stage companies kind of also kind of leverage you all? Like, is it a spectrum, or do you kind of see a bit more attention with your clients that are kind of in a specific stage of the company?
Yeah, that's a logical question because in life sciences, R&D companies spend a lot more time being a young startup,
Mhm.
early stage than maybe another, industry that we focus on as well. So, yeah, we're looking at things that whether it connects a business to um, universities or like SUNY and CUNY, which is 62 campuses across the state of New York. And we have a division called NISTAR in Empire State Development. And what they do is they support the sort of education system so that when companies are looking, or if you're going to start a company, you might be able to connect with a university and find out what's being done in that area. Is there somebody else focused on that already that you could learn from, or you know, uh, just to find out what else is available for you to help grow your business. There's so many attributes that come out of our NISTAR division. Basically, it it grows everything across the technology sector from big data and health sciences and hybrid medical devices and drones, to life sciences and R&D. So it's not just young companies that we're focused on. There comes a point where people are, in R&D for maybe a long time, and then they find hit some milestones, and they find a way that they need to create a project plant. So we might be able to incentivize that activity, so to help them from going from an R&D lab all the way to manufacturing, perhaps. So there might be some incentives for a company to manufacture here after growing here, as well.
Wow. So for anyone that's listening, it's kind of across the gamut, whether you're early R&D or kind of past manufacturing, there's still so much benefit that you can reap with this kind of support that you get with Empire State Development.
Yeah, we worked with a company, a New York City company, run by Dr. Sharon Mates. She was one of the co-founders, and the company is Intracellular, and they recently came out with a schizophrenia drug. So there wasn't a new drug on the market for the longest time, and they were able to get FDA approval on an antipsychotic. And while I was at the conference earlier this week, I found that there were a lot of people talking about Intracellular. They are being approached by Johnson and Johnson for an acquisition, nearly $15 billion. Now, Empire State Development didn't have, there weren't like a driver in that, but the fact that we knew the company, worked with them, provided them with incentives to help them grow at a time that they needed assistance. They're the geniuses. I'm the government, two different things. So, but definitely, yeah, to have stories like that in the background and see, that the companies that we're working with are really making an impact in the world. You just feel a sense of pride about that.
Absolutely. What an incredible success story. One of many, I'm sure. That's amazing. So would love to learn more, Loretta, around, I know we were talking a little bit around kind of the work and the collaboration that your team has with universities and how that is such like a great fresh pipeline, not just for ideas, but also for talent. How does, your role or the company more broadly approach partnerships, with other industries, whether it's like other local governments, other healthcare institutions? Would love to learn a little bit more about kind of what partnerships looks like for you more broadly.
So yeah, as a result of that, I'll just tell you a little bit about more about NISTAR, which if you want to find out anything about any of these other divisions, I'd be happy to direct you. We have a small business division, which provides small business financing for companies that, you might go to a bank, but the bank doesn't want to take all the risks. So sometimes we can partner with the bank and be the third party. There's so many different ways. And then again, back to NISTAR, something that we did very long ago was we invested in companies and gave matching funds to companies that were getting SBIR funding. And then it went away, as things tend to do. But now we realize how important that is. So to companies as they're growing, to get that early stage money. So we have a matching grant out now. It started earlier this year, and we've had a couple of rounds, and they fill up very fast. So it's called the Innovation Matching Grant. If you wanted to know more about that, you could look it up from NISTAR. And even if you're not ready with your SBIR right now, it's good to get to know what the application looks like and things like that, so that when you are ready, you don't miss the opportunity to get that matching fund. So it's much less than what the federal government is providing, but we also don't look at the science. We look alongside of what the federal government is approving, and then we allow that to be an applicant for us. There's another division in Empire State Development that is focused on venture capital. So it's called New York Ventures. And early days of New York Ventures, they didn't have money specifically for life sciences. And we found that all the money was going out the door to software and other things that have a very faster return on investment. So we did a set aside for different life sciences funds, different life sciences technology, whether you're doing R&D for a pharmaceutical or equipment, machinery and equipment, you can get in touch with our New York Ventures division, and they'll tell you about what other programs that they have that they might be able to support as you're doing a funding round. And again, like I wanted just to mention quickly about the regional offices. They have grant programs and also regional economic development councils, which bring in members of the community, of the industry, of business leaders in that region, which would help identify the needs of what the region really is looking for. If the region did have money from New York State, how that money would best be spent. If companies were looking to expand, how much of an investment can New York State make to support that expansion? So, it's running the gamut of resources, like you said, educational, academia, partnerships with other other economic development organizations, and then membership organizations as well. I mentioned earlier that New York Bio hosted a welcome meeting for everyone before the big bio conference on Monday and Tuesday. We did a thing in New York City. It was in Midtown, and people got together, and it was very social, and a chance to have food and drink and conversation and kind of break the ice before you go to the big event where everyone's wearing their suit and ties, sitting in conferences. So those opportunities and doing things with Hit Lab, make a big difference. I remember being on this webinar listening one time, and there was a speaker that you had on, and she talked about how it wasn't until the 90s that women were included in clinical trials. So, I just couldn't believe that was true, that 50% of the population wasn't included. And it took Congress to pass a law to say that we need to put women in the focus. So, when you're wondering if you should trust your government and trust all the things as they are, get involved and be involved with things like Hit Lab and New York Bio and other organizations that are going to help support what you're doing in your sector, and find out, how to make a difference and find out what's really happening so that you can have good outcomes.
That's incredible, Loretta. That is wholeheartedly agreed. And I think as you were describing all of the incredible programs and just resources that's available, I think for everyone on the call that, may just, need those resources or just don't really, just needed a place to start already. I'm sure there's so many gears turning. So thank you for just kind of really walking us through just the wealth of resources that Empire State Development just kind of has in its arsenal. I wanted to ask, we do have a question from the audience. One of our audience members would like if you could elaborate on the tax credit program.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So that's kind of our favorite go-to, our first go-to, because it's easier for businesses and it's not a grant. So it's not a public process. And a lot of times our grants, you have to do the whole of your project before you get any money reimbursed. A lot of times when you're getting incentives from a government entity, everything is on a reimbursement basis. So with the 100% refundable tax credit, which is called the Excelsior Jobs Program, when you're creating jobs, we do a sort of pay as you go. So you tell us what you're going to do. Maybe in the first year, you'll create 8 jobs, and we'll respond to that with an incentive, and then we'll pay you out over a 10-year project plan based on what your project looks like. So the Excelsior program is, like I said, very business friendly, streamlined. The reporting is different than when you have a grant or you're working with other states. Lots of times the tax credit programs are not refundable. So this time you actually know exactly what you're getting once you come to us. And we do that in a very simple process. You'll come to me and you'll tell me that you have an idea, you want to create jobs, make a capital investment. I'll ask you to fill out a project information worksheet, which is a friendly 4-sheet form. It's not an official application that you're held to. Everything else we keep confidential. because it doesn't help the company if we let any cat out of the bag, so to speak.
Mhm.
And at that point, we'll do a review internally to see what the direct fiscal benefit to your project would be for New York State. And then we'll
Mhm.
give a little bit of that money back in the form of a tax credit over a 10-year payout plan.
Wow. Very, very helpful.
A
And I saw
little
that.
technical, but
No,
but
I
I
think
just wanted to demonstrate how much
absolutely.
more streamlined that
Yeah.
Excelsior program is compared to other economic development incentives.
Definitely. And I think sometimes it's so nice to really just demystify the process, which is what you did. So I think that's always so helpful when you are able to kind of share a little bit more insider transparency into some of those types of things. And it sounded very, very simple and straightforward, which is what you can't always say when it comes to loans and grants and credits. So that is, I think, a big win. Loretta, I know that we are close to time, so I really kind of wanted to end, I mean, with one of my favorite questions to ask, which is what advice would you, or kind of words of wisdom, career advice that you want to kind of distill with us today? Maybe something that a mentor had told you, or just something that is a Loretta original. Any just kind of words of career advice for us?
Well, we hired a babysitter once in our family for my son, and I live near Stony Brook University, and she was a lab technician at Stony Brook. And she said to us, I can't stand being alone all day. This is why she took our job as a babysitter as a part-time
Yeah.
job. She goes, I'm so isolated. I have no one to talk to. And I said, so you were a lab technician and you didn't know you were going to be alone. So just like get out there and experience, go visit companies or labs or whatever it is that you're seeking, kind of understand what the job is by talking to people and, have a positive outlook because you never know what might come after she didn't want to be a lab technician anymore. She found out something about herself, but she had to do it the hard way. So
100%. I love that. I think that's so incredible. Thank you for a very informative conversation. I think the work that you're doing is absolutely incredible and all of the resources and programs that you and your organization provide. So thank you for kind of sharing all of that with us today.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Loretta. Make sure you join us next week for our next Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. Wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsors for sponsoring this incredible conversation, as well as one last huge thank you to Loretta for all of her incredible words of wisdom and insights with us. And we will see you all next Wednesday. Bye, everyone.